Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're back. Hey, I'm Brett L. Pape. That's Coach Bruce, and this is the Coach Approach.
This thing on?
Coach, we're back. We're back. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Just drove in from California, make sure I got home in time for the podcast, and living my best life now, man. Ready to go.
You're lucky to be driving away from California. I can't leave. I got to stay here for another 8 years. It's a rough place out here right now.
You know, I love to visit up there, but yeah, I lived out there a couple different times throughout my life, and I'm okay not living out there again. But I love to visit.
It's not rough. We got a lot of I mean, like my wife and I last week were 45 minutes away from being able to do almost anything you can imagine. Fishing, obviously skiing right here in my backyard. And we went and saw Hall & Oates on Friday. That was one hell of a concert. And it was fun to kind of get – it was kind of cool to just get back out there in the real world. I mean, you had to show a vax card or a negative test. And then we had my daughter, 12-year-old she's going to kill me. Luckily, she doesn't watch. 13-year-old. She plays travel softball, so we're all over the place. So we went this weekend right after the concert. We went to Vegas, and she had games both Saturday and Sunday. So we had a pretty good time, and it's kind of a nice little getaway.
No, that's awesome, man. Yeah, it's always nice you can get away with the family for a little bit. She win? They do good?
No, they did absolutely terrible. I think the average.
We won't talk about that then. We'll just say.
Yeah, no. She was on the all tournament team though, so that was cool.
Good.
I mean, she's a good little player, plays center and hits the crap out of the ball. So you can tell she's my stepdaughter and not my daughter because she's actually good.
Hey, why is it you look so tall on your screen and I look so short?
I'll tell you, it would be literally the only time it would ever be like that. As you're probably, I think you said 6'2", and I'm 5'4", 5'6". Whatever day I'm wearing flip flops or not, but so I'm kind of glad.
Flip flops for high heels, but we'll leave that.
Hell no. I'm kind of like Kenny Chesney, nothing but flip flops when I'm off work, and if it's summer school, flip flops every day. But other than that, it's
man.
Yeah. But hey, so how are your teams doing, man? I don't know about you, but Scott Fishbowl and the injury bug is absolutely killing me.
Yeah, so I'm 2-2, and I've same thing. I'm dealing with the injury bug too. I've got CMC out. I've got Michael Thomas hasn't played yet. AJ Brown was out this week. Rob Gronkowski's out this week, and so it was just putting together the MASH unit, trying to figure out. And it actually came down to the Monday night game with Tampa Bay. I needed Ryan Suckup to score 8 points. Well, the way that Scott Fish scoring works is he kicks a 37-yard field goal. He gets 3.7 points, and they're down about 5.5. Goes to kick a second field goal. I think it's a 42-yard field goal. He misses. So now it's minus 4.2. So I'm right back needing about 9 points now. And then luckily he was able to hit a couple more field goals, and I got enough points to eke it out there at the end. But it's a MASH unit right now. I'm just trying to put together. I was able to pick up CJ Uzoma, who had a big week last week, with a couple touchdowns in Cincinnati, and he started to come on and develop in that offense. But with Joe Burrow, they're building that connection up there, so I was able to pick him up.
Let me stop you real quick. Let me tell you a quick CJ story. I only had CJ in one of my leagues due to an injury to Herb Smith. So all I had was CJ for the first three weeks. So week 3, I decided, man, I got to make a move. It looks like I'm going to be able to compete. So I make a trade. I can't even remember what I gave up, but I got Dallas Goedert. So I take CJ out last week, put in Goddard. And then CJ has the week that he has. So that's kind of been my luck in fantasy football so far this year.
Yeah, I can tell you this. 100 out of 100 analysts or fans that know football would have made the same move that you did. So the only people that would have put CJ in over him would have been somebody that likes the colors of the team or doesn't really know much about football and just, start CJ. But most people are going to start Goddard in that situation.
Yeah, well, whatever it may be, it's been an interesting start to the season, and I don't know about we put a lot of time and effort, and obviously a lot of the other guys in the analyst world do a heck of a
Yeah.
lot more than either one of us do. And even the little that I do with the editing or trying just to maintain 32 rosters, I
Yeah.
was feeling a little burnout, and I don't think that's talked about enough. But you do all that work in the summer, all that work during the draft season, and here you are, you're week 4, you're finally into it, and you're like, damn, I need a break.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's 38 teams when I look at Flea Flicker and SF, Scott Fishbowl, and a couple home links I've got on ESPN and Yahoo. And then I've got, I think, 31 teams or something, 28 teams on Sleeper. But it's extremely difficult, especially at, 10 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning out here in Arizona. The games come on at 10 and you're scrambling. If you've got guys that are questionable or game time decisions,
Right.
and if they play in the Sunday night game, but they're at game time, like you got to take them out of your line and put somebody in, is going to get you some points unless you just feel really good about it or have an inside scoop with somebody. But yeah, it's crazy. It's way too many teams. And I say it every year, I'm going to cut down, and I do. And I'm so addicted to the drafting process and what goes on there. And I put so much work in the rankings and the college game and those things that you just kind of, you love the drafting process. So I end up right back with 30 something teams again. Never fails.
Yeah, I'm gonna do everything I can not to do that next year, but I'm right there with you because you also want to, I've definitely learned a lot with all the drafting over the last couple of years. I was a 1 to 2 league guy 3 years ago, and it was what we call it a keeper league. Should have always been called dynasty because we kept pretty much everybody. And so then last year, going into the draft season and then being on Twitter because of COVID and getting involved in all that. And now I'm jumping into all these leagues, and I was like a kid in a candy store with my future draft picks and just trying to win now. And it was all my draft philosophy last year. And I'm stuck in all those leagues, kind of having made a lot of bad decisions, and I'm not doing too well. And then fast forward to this year, and I kind of took the progressive struggle approach on a lot of my drafts. And so I've got a lot of teams that could be okay in the future, and some teams that I'm going, God, I got to figure out a way to sell off pieces like maybe a DeAndre Hopkins because I'm not competing, and he's getting up there, and I may still have value for him. But it's been an interesting ride in playing so many. It's the best way to learn, I can tell you that.
Well, and I think that's a great point. I know for me, the reason why I got so many, this is the first year that I started putting my own personal rankings out, put more content out, doing some articles, jumping on some podcasts, and kind of really entrenching myself into that. Although, you and I don't consider ourselves analysts, but I think we do a lot more homework, so to speak, than maybe the casual fantasy player. But a lot of that was taking different ideas, whether it's hero running back or zero running back or zero wide receiver, which I know some people talk about taking 3 running backs early and then finally, get your quarterback in round 4 or 5 and start adding receivers because there's a lot of talent at receiver. You can get receivers deeper in the draft. It was fun for me to say, hey, look, I'm putting money in these leagues. I've got some money in these at the same time. I want to have some fun trying different draft strategies that people talk about, seeing how it plays out, because you can do all the mock drafts in the offseason that you want. I do a ton of them. But a lot of those mock drafts, especially pre-draft or even right after the draft, before the preseason starts, there's a lot of guesswork that goes in if you're not really doing your homework and really in the know with what analysts to follow that really cover specific teams and what's going on and different coaching changes. And so for me, it was a lot about trying different draft strategies and just having some fun with it. So I've got some teams that are zero running backs, some that are, I took running backs early. My Scott Fishbowl strategy went to crap in the first round when I went to go pick, and my guy was off the board, and I just completely switched my strategy, and I'm 2-2, so it's paying off, but it's not paying off at the same time, and I've won one that I shouldn't have, and I've lost one that I should have won, and that's a great thing about fantasy. There's so many different scoring systems, and just getting into as many different types of leagues as I could to, again, take another year of really learning a lot more about the fantasy space and the analysts to follow and kind of what's going on, and take my own process being a film guy, but also loving the analytical side of it, and combining those two and using analysts that you trust to build a roster. So it's been a lot of fun for me to do, different roster builds and try different things this year.
Yeah. And, you made up another point when you were talking about how now you're having to switch a little bit, because that's what I'm having to do in a couple different leagues that I didn't think that I was going to compete. And now here I am, and I am competing. And so now you got to switch maybe a strategy. And that's another thing. I don't know about you, but how do you come about or what makes it easy for you to recognize that this is a contender or this is it's time to rebuild and see if we can work a way to getting better in the future and not so much working about now?
So I focus a lot on, the roster build. You know me, I dive deep into the coaches and what the coaching scheme is from the offensive coordinator and how long has a quarterback, for example, been in that system and what are the pieces they built around him to be successful. So really looking a lot at the draft strategy, current roster build. Then you add in what pieces have they added in the draft. I'm not an IDP guy. I play in a few of those leagues. I do well, but I think I get more lucky than anything in those leagues. But I don't spend a ton of time on the defensive side. But just taking what those teams are doing from a coaching perspective, how they're building their offense, the players they have, do they fit the scheme, do they not? And then be able to take that information and say, hey, this is where real football meets fantasy football, so to speak, which is really what this podcast is about. And then taking that information and just being able to – and look, we're all taking as much information as we can, whether you're a film guy, you're an analytics guy, and if you're just on one side or the other, you do a little bit of both. But we all have a process that we all believe and trust that process works. And the biggest advice I give people that haven't been playing fantasy football for a long time or might be getting into dynasty for the first time or played redraft for years is like, hey, trust your process, do the homework, ask a lot of questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question when you're getting into fantasy football. And just taking all that information you have. And so what that does allows all of us to make an educated guess, a very educated guess on how we put those rosters together. And it's neat to see, guys that maybe weren't getting a lot of credit in the offseason, like a Daniel Jones. Everybody, if you talk about fans, talk about that later. They felt like he wasn't the franchise quarterback. You look at what the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts, and hey, Carson Wentz, is it a good landing spot? Is it not? Is it 6 inches between his ears going to be good enough to be successful in Indianapolis? And, you take all that.
Well, you know how I feel about him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you take educated guesses, and sometimes those, turn out to be very good process. And sometimes you look at it and you go, Cordell Patterson's a great example of a guy that nobody saw.
He's in no one's process.
And people say, now they're starting to figure out how to use Cordell Patterson. Look, it's not – these NFL coaches are extremely smart. There's a reason why they get these jobs. Some are better coordinators than head coaches or offensive coordinators. But I don't think it's so much that offensive coordinators didn't know how to use him in the past. I think a lot of it is you could say a little bit of that, but maybe what you see in practice and other people you have on that bench or are on that team, maybe he's not the guy. Maybe that system doesn't fit what we're seeing now. I think there's a lot of variables come into play. But he's a guy that showed up every day, put the work in. He's finally getting a chance to prove himself as not just a return specialist. And look, he's having a heck of a season. So there go all your Mike Davis guys that are going. And, of course, everybody that didn't think Mike Davis was great is doing the victory laps right now. And everybody thought that, but nobody saw that coming. So that's another situation.
Nobody.
The process was good and the process was sound. But he was picked up on a lot of waiver wires.
Well, a lot of what Twitter talk, and when you talk about guys like you talk about outliers. That is not a typical situation. A guy like him, who in the career that he had, doesn't typically do what he's been doing over the last few weeks. So, I don't think anyone's shooting their foot. But who are guys that you've hit on this year? And I was very fortunate enough to get. I had Terry McLaurin the guys that I rely on for my information were all over that guy, and so thankful that I was able to get a bunch of them because he's so underrated.
Terry McLaurin is another one of those guys. I talked about him a lot in the offseason. I know that Bloody Sunday. I think it's Gavin_FF now. He changed his Twitter handle, but him and I had some great conversations in the offseason about Terry's, Scary Terry. And I was trying to get the McFly nickname to stick because everybody was talking about nicknames. I felt like McFly was such a great name for him, but it just didn't stick. But he's a guy that his rookie year, he didn't get a ton of volume. He didn't get a ton of playing time. He didn't run a ton of routes. So it was kind of like, hey, and you saw what he did last year in his second year where he was a guy that played really, really well. And if you just look, he's not quarterback dependent. That's another guy you can put anybody that can throw a football, right? That can be somewhat decent at the quarterback position. You look at the quarterbacks who've been in the Washington football team the last 2 years. He just puts numbers up week in and week out.
They all find him. They all find him.
He creates separation. He's great on the 50-50 ball. He's got a full route tree. He's good with yards after the catch. He's a guy that anytime he touches the ball has a chance to take the house. So that's a guy that I would say that, when you and I talked about this before the show, so it's great you brought him up, but that's a guy that I'm a huge believer in. I think that, Miles Sanders would be a guy that when Kenneth Gainwell was drafted into that offense, and, a lot of guys thought that, hey, this year Miles Sanders is going to see more volume, and it's a great opportunity for him with Jalen Hurts. I think we're going to see him more involved in the passing game. And the reality is it's now you're starting to see as the weeks go on. Now we're into week 4, Kenny Gainwell gaining more and more of that passing and getting more of that volume, getting more touches. And so you're starting to look at that and go, hey, again, you've got to look at talent and evaluation, and guys really break down college film and trust their process and take a look at that. It's turned out to be a player that a lot of guys missed on, in terms of Miles Sanders and Kenny Gainwell.
He's just fun.
Yeah.
Oh, Kenny Gainwell. I'm surprised. I had a guy off in my home league ask me yesterday, would you trade a future first for Gainwell in one quarterback standard scoring league? What would you do? You doing that?
Absolutely. And I'll
You're
give
trading
you
a future first for Gainwell.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm doing that.
It comes down to this for me. It comes down to A, system he's in, and B, anytime someone talks about a first-round draft pick, what are we talking about? Are we talking about a team that's rostered right now is going to compete for a championship? So you're looking at that and saying, hey, that's a late-round first. In that situation, based on the 2022, if I need a running back in the class that's coming out, I'm okay taking Kenny Gainwell in that situation. But if it's an early first-round pick, no, I'm not taking Kenny Gainwell.
No, it's a late one. It would be a late one.
Okay. So there you go. So again, you kind of have to predict.
It's probably 1.10 to 1.12.
Yeah. So I don't have a problem, with that draft pick. And here's the other thing too, is I think when you talk about players that you hit or miss on, Saquon Barkley's another guy. It's a great example. We all knew the talent was there, and there was a lot of people talking about, hey, he's coming off an ACL. What's he going to look like the first couple games? He was a little hesitant. He was dancing a little bit too much in the backfield. Look, all it took, you got to play the waiting game. I think anybody that jumps off a player in the first couple weeks of the season or on a player in the first couple weeks of the season, unless there's a really good process behind that, look, you got to give a guy come back from the ACL 3, 4, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. He's the RB1. He's the clear RB1. He's going to see volume eventually. He's going to get involved in the passing game. And now finally, week 4, we got to see him finally catch the rock, turn that into a long touchdown. You saw how pumped up he got. He's starting to gain more confidence in his ability. I think that Barkley's a guy. Yeah, I had no problem taking him in the first round.
Yeah.
And that's going to pay off. And there was a lot of people that were real skeptical about.
Well, you love to see it.
It's all
you
about
love to see it with him.
Yeah.
You love to see it with him because he's such a special talent. And you hate to see injuries, derail someone from that path. And it's my biggest fear for my favorite player coming into this season, a guy that I did everything I could to acquire and get on my rosters as much as possible. That was Cam Akers. And I truly believe situation and talent was ideal for him to be someone that I could just pencil in every week and feel comfortable that I was getting RB1, like good RB1 numbers every week, and especially that offense. So, I would hopefully we're going to be sitting here next year talking about Cam like we're talking about Saquon.
I was huge on Cam Akers. I know Jacob Sanderson. There's a lot of analysts out there that were. You look at Sean McVay, what he does with that offense. You bring a quarterback in, it can give you more of a verticality in the passing game, which means you're going to eventually play against lighter boxes and what he can do in the run scheme. I thought Akers was going to have a monster year this year, and that's just another one of those you go, gosh, dang. But I'll say this: I can't continue the conversation without throwing out Zeke Elliott. Right? Zeke Elliott's a guy that a lot of people felt like he's washed. 2020. Look, 2020 was a terrible year. We can all agree on that. You had 3 offensive linemen out: Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, Lyle Collins out for the whole season. I combined them as 30-something games. And I think people really want to see Tony Pollard. Look, Tony Pollard is a great talent. You can go back to college. Tony Pollard's not a guy that can give you 300 carries over the course of a season. He's not an alpha. He's a great complimentary back, and when he has to play and spell, He's not great in pass pro, but if he gets game action, if Zeke is out due to injury, he's going to perform. But if you put him in the starting role over the course of 17 games, he's not going to produce at the level that Zeke Elliott does. And he's not a guy you can have on the field on third down in plus protection because he struggles against pass pro. But you look at what Zeke Elliott did in week 1, I think it was 10 carries, 30 yards. It's Tampa Bay. Nobody's running against Tampa Bay. They just gave up negative 1 yards rushing to New England. And then you look at week 2, so he goes from 3 yards a carry to 4.2 to 5.3 to 7.2 this last week, goes for 140. A lot of people missed on Zeke and want to feel like, hey, he's at that age apex where things are start going downhill. Hey, I get it. But that Dallas offense right now can beat you anyway. No matter what you do defensively, you're wrong.
Here's the problem I have with it, though.
Yeah.
What the hell's wrong with CD? And no, CD Lamb. And why? Here's the thing. Am I worried about him as a dynasty owner or a dynasty manager of him? Hell no, I'm not. But I'd like to be able to confidently put him in there and know that we're going to get, significant team numbers out of him. And unfortunately, the last couple of weeks, we haven't. And this is a situation where if I'm a fan of Dallas, I don't care. And that's what you are. You don't care because that it is better for them football-wise to be able to do what they're doing. So my frustration is not – I hate seeing tweets about this guy's not utilized right. As former coaches, I think you agree. Every one of those guys want to do one thing. That's win a football game. We may not agree in the way they try to do it, but I think none of us can say that they truly believe by doing or not giving Miles Sanders more of an opportunity. They're doing that on purpose just so whatever. No, they're doing what they think is the best for them to win.
This is when you take real football meets fantasy football. And he's a prime example because based on what a defensive does, if you watch what they do in coverage, they run a 3-high look, which means 3. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds with coach speak, but above the hard deck, are there 3 guys 78 yards, 10 to 12 yards above the hard deck from the line of scrimmage? You're going to say, okay, that's a 3 cap or 3-high look, or a 2-high look. What are you going to do? That means a light box, right? You're going to run the football. What Dak has done, and he's so good at managing football, he can read the numbers and he can see when they're a plus man advantage or a minus in the run box and check. He's got a run play and a pass play every time he walks up the line of scrimmage. And he checks. And right now, teams are having a very difficult time, especially when they take Connor McGovern, who's a guard, center, swing, and interior lineman, and they put him at fullback or an H-back as an extra blocker that pulls in the run game. And you're looking at them going, hey, if you guys are going to keep going too high, right, we're going to run the ball all game long on you. Now, if you start coming down, that's when they hit you with play action. That's when they hit you with. But they're doing such a great job, and it sucks for CeeDee Lamb, and it sucks for Amari Cooper, and from a fantasy perspective. But what is Dak doing now? He's involving Blake Jarwin. He's involving Dalton Schultz. He's attacking the middle of the field.
Dalton Schultz.
Because defenses are focused on Amari Cooper and Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard, and they're focused on the receivers on the outside or CD in the slot and rolling coverage. But who's taking the tight end? If you're a defense, who do you want to give up passes to?
I get it. You like him.
He's taking what they're giving him.
Yeah, no, like I said, I have no problems with it. They're a better football team. But, I'd just like to get more points out of CD. It does, and that's okay. Because when I see tweets or whatever going, I see people say, F this guy because I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. They're literally trying to do the best they can to win a game. And everybody – that's why you and I, when we differed on Justin Fields, I think a lot of people believe Justin Fields not starting was because of a promise made prior to anyone thinking there was. I think it was literally, and I can't overstate this, I think with him being there with Patrick, he really felt that was the best move. It's good to see that here we are now, and he's been officially named the starter. So that's got to make you happy.
Well, yes and no. And I say that meaning, look, you can look at Justin Fields' first game as a starter and say, and the people will say they were on the Andy Dalton train, which there weren't very many, but they'll say, look at how much he struggled in that game. But when you break the film down and you read the box and you read what the defense was doing in terms of the passing game, the plays that Matt Nagy was calling were absolutely atrocious. I mean, you couldn't go solid protection, which just solid protection means a running back is in the route concept. They're not using more than 5 guys to protect. It wasn't working. That O-line was getting defeated on every snap. So you got to look at what the play calling is. It was a terrible play calling game for Nagy. What he did in week 4 made a lot more sense. And now you got David Montgomery out. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does in week 5.
Well, I mean, I believe that's going to give a lot of more freedom to Justin because ever since he's been there, it's been Dalton's team, according to Gase, their plan was the whole year. Well, now he knows that he's not going to be replaced. And I feel like he's going to be – there's sometimes where, those plays as a coach where you're like, no, that's not what yes, good job. All right, yay.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like Justin Fields is going to overcome a lot of negative play calling and or whatever type of situation the team puts him in just by the fact that he is a hell of a talent. And now he's going to have the freedom to not always be in the system, not always listen, I guess is the best way to put it.
Well, it's like you hear about now, too. Everybody's concerned about A-Rob. What do they do with Allen Robinson? Allen Robinson's not getting that volume. He's not. It's like, look, this is a guy that's in his second start. We already talked about Matt Nagy, and I felt like the play calling and Justin Fields' first start was terrible, especially against the defense they were going up against. What he was trying to do scheme-wise didn't fit what the defense was giving him. Now you get into last week, and there was a lot more run heavy. There was more play action. There was more moving the pocket. There was more things that fit what Justin Fields does well. And I think now you're going to see that moving on. But the people are talking about today, listen to Andy Holloway and the fantasy footballers. We're talking about Allen Robinson and hey, what are you doing? Are you holding? Are you trying to sell him? Like, no, you're not going to sell Allen Robinson. His value's low right now. You don't trade Allen Robinson right now, right? He's a guy that's extremely talented. And you look at the quarterbacks he's had. No. He's a guy. He's a whole. Anybody who's looking to trade him is you're out of your mind.
Well, I'm trading anybody if anyone offers me a ridiculous deal. But am I worried about the entire season outcome? No. I feel like if I have him, and which I do, I'm comfortably starting him and understanding that. Just kind of let it. You brought up the word process, and I look forward to here in a second. We're going to have you introduced to our next analyst, and that's something I always want to talk to him about, and that's the process. Well, the process said Allen Robinson is going to do this, that, or that. I think if you're only 4 weeks into the season, you got to trust your process. And I'm not ready to jump ship on almost anybody. But let's move on. Yeah. I think it's about time that you tell us about somebody you met at the expo. It seems all our guests come from that, which makes me pretty excited about the fact that I'll be going there next year. So tell us all about him.
Yeah, so before I introduce him, I got to tell the story. So I brought a couple guys with me that play fantasy football, but they're not really big into fantasy football. They play, a couple home leagues, but they're not like us. They're not on Twitter. They're not, they're just kind of in. So when they heard about Fantasy Football Expo, knowing we're going to go to the Football Hall of Fame, they were like, hey, we're going to wear our Cowboys gear and big, they're big Cowboy fans. There he is, man. We'll get to it. But what was funny was we're walking around the expo, and the two of them have Cowboy jerseys on. Now, I'm a huge Cowboy fan. I don't have one on because I'm going there neutral. I don't want anybody to think it's biased opinion, whatever. We'll get into that. But it was funny. When we go into draft night out with Robbie from Rum Boys, did a phenomenal job putting that on. And all of a sudden, here comes Will, which I'm just going to say right now. Obviously, you guys see the guest now. It's Will from Out Biased Opinions, man. He does phenomenal work. But it was so funny because all of a sudden, he sees the guys in the Cowboys, my buddies, and he comes over to the table and he starts having some fun with us, joking around. And my buddies are great guys. They're not, typical fans that are so biased about their team. They just want to argue with everybody. It was such a fun banter back and forth. And I'm joking around with Will. He's joking around with these guys. Then we get in a draft night out. He's in his draft. And every time he got up to go put a sticker on the board of who he was drafting, he's looking at everybody at the table. And Michelle from Ball Blastings in his group. And he's like, let's go. And he's getting jacked up. The whole room just gets more energy. And then he gets an award. There's a raffle, and he gets an award for a jersey. And he comes running up from the middle of the crowd. He's running through the crowd like he's a running back. He's doing spin moves. He's stiff arming. He runs up, and he's screaming, holding the jersey up. The guy lit up the room. And so we just had an absolute blast. And I'm looking at my buddies. I'm like, I got to get that guy's info, man. So we did. We finally later on that day met at the bar at the hotel and exchanged information, and now here he is. But as you guys see, it's Will from @biasedopinions_ on Twitter. He's a college football DFS and betting guy. He's with Campus to Canton. He does NFL betting and Ball Blast football. He's a creator with IDP Guys, Dynasty Vipers. He does it all. If there's anything you want to know about DFS, lineup, sports betting, he's the guy, man. Will, welcome to the show, brother.
We got some volume. You on mute there?
Sorry, guys. No, appreciate you. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate the kind words, man. The expo was definitely a fun time. I appreciate being on this podcast, and yeah, we had a good time out there, man. One of the things that I do love about Cowboys fans, man, they're just so passionate. And I mean, these guys, don't get me wrong, I'm a New York Football Giant fan myself, so I like to be head to toe NYG. But at the end of the day, I mean, these guys, they had like endless Cowboys gear, and I was like, okay, maybe this is just for Friday night. And then Saturday they turned around, they had fresh Cowboys gear, and I was like, okay, maybe this is it. Saturday, then Sunday the same thing. So we definitely had a good time, man. We definitely had a good time. It was a good time back and forth. Like I said, that banter between like the Cowboys and the Giants never goes away. Now I will tell you this story. Coach reached out to me and was like, hey, would you be available to get on our podcast? And it's going to be on the 6th of October, and we do it every evening at this time. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Now, mind you, he hit me up in August. So I'm like, listen, I'm not the type of person to tell you if you're busy or not. But I was like, something seems kind of weird here. So I checked the schedule. And guess who the New York Football Giants are playing this weekend? Dallas Cowboys. So I was like, all right, this is very strategic, coach. This is very strategic. And I sent him this DM. I was like, I just saw that we're going to be playing you guys this upcoming Sunday. And he was like, oh, I had no idea. And I was like, yeah, right, because I do. I always have that on my calendar, man. As soon as the football season rolls out, I definitely know what weeks. Obviously we play twice a year, so I know when the home and away. Not only Dallas games, but also the Eagles games. I'm not too worried about the Washington football team, but those are some games I'm more.
Hey,
first and foremost,
I don't want you. Hold up, Coach.
Right,
I don't want you guys to go into this, because in about 2 minutes, what we're going to do is I'm simply going to say, all right, Coach, you tell me why Dallas Cowboys are going to win, and then you just give me everything, and then we'll pass it down to our guy at the bottom. But hey, Will, man, last night talking to you after the meeting with Ball Blast, man, so grateful that I'm going to have an opportunity to read your stuff. But what Coach Bruce said about your personality and everything, it just shows. And now we're really thankful to have you here. And one of the things that really impressed me the most is, like, I don't know how you do it all. I mean, if you're going to put your name out there and you're going to be an IDP guy, if you're going to be a NFL betting guy, if you're going to be, when do you have the time? How are you able to, because one of the reasons why I always say I'm not an analyst is because I don't want to be held accountable. Here you are saying that you have all this. So how do you do it all?
Well, listen, first you got to go with the name, right? Hence the name Biased Opinions. That way we get all this stuff like, hey, you said, well, exactly, I said that. So that's coming from my opinion, and it's biased, obviously. So we get that out the way. But, I've been doing this since 2004, man. Just pretty much got my feet wet in sports betting when I was a junior in college, and then just been doing it. And now that's pretty much legal. In a little bit less than half of the states in the United States, it's a great thing. You wake up in the morning, look at the lines. I'm somebody that when those lines come up every Tuesday morning, Monday evening, I'm looking at to see what value I could catch, and then I'm just searching for some good lines. So it's just being in it, learning also from experience and learning from some trial and error, and just trying to get better. I'm very competitive, so I think that the sports betting side, it's good because just like fantasy, right? You want to win your fantasy league, but when you're doing sports betting, you obviously want to win money as well and be right. So, and also if people are tailing your picks, you want to make them win money, so then they keep on coming back to you for advice and things of that nature. And also with DFS, it's like, hey, who should I start? Who should I sit? How's my lineup looking? That stuff makes me feel good. So definitely always been a competitive person, and that's what keeps me going, man.
And truth be told, By the way, I got to give Dominic a shout out. Dominic's the gentleman you met at the expo. I don't know if you recognize the name.
Yeah.
I told
That's
those
my
guys
guy.
you're going to be on the show tonight. You're like, oh my God, we're going to jump on. But shout out to Dom and his brother Anthony that'll probably pop in.
Man, there
too.
were some cool guys, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, I
We had
lived in
so much
Dallas
fun.
I lived in Dallas for a year, and this is actually gonna be my fourth game going to see the Giants play at Jerry's World. Never had an issue. I mean, the Cowboys fans, like I said again, we go back and forth, but it's all in fun. And all three of you guys at the expo were nothing but a good time. So I definitely made it a point to look out for you guys every single day while I was down there, man. And I'm looking forward to the expo next year, man.
Well, we'll see you at the Cowboys game this weekend. So I'll connect with you, man. My wife's
Okay.
coming up with me, man. So we'll get together for a beer or something before the game.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Sure.
I'm down.
Well, you guys can't stop talking about it, so let's get into it. So let me give you, as an outside observer, as a non-fan of either team, my opinion. And my opinion is that I think both teams, for their own reasons, should be pretty happy right now. I think the way Dallas is winning, the way that they're finding, they're not having to outscore necessarily. They're not doing what a lot of people feared, and their defense being what it is this year is a huge surprise. Go to the other side, and I've been able to watch a couple New York Giants teams or games, and the person that I feel who has hurt you the most is Joe Judge. I've really been impressed with the way Daniel Jones has played. I've really been impressed with you guys played really that Washington game. I thought you guys had a great performance by the team. I thought it was poorly coached. So going into it, I would have to go with Dallas based off the fact that I think that even though I may not be a huge fan, I think they are better coached right now, and they're playing in Dallas. So with that being said, why don't you start off where it will, and you tell me why. And Daniel Jones, I'll tell you what, someone made me an offer for Daniel Jones. I'm not trading him. I mean, I love that guy. That guy's got a lot of ability. I think you guys have your franchise quarterback. I think you leave him alone and let him play. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Why are they going to win?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I agree with you, but also, Brett, earlier somebody mentioned that the coaching is really not the issue. Joe Judge has coached a total of 20 games. We only got blown out in one of those games. Yeah. Now, is there some time management issues? There is, but the good thing is we're playing against Mike McCarthy down there in Dallas.
Yeah,
and, he's one of the biggest culprits in time management. So I'm looking forward to him to have a couple of brain fumbles there and pretty much pretty much go into halftime with all three timeouts or just mismanage the time in the fourth quarter and we come up with a win. But yeah, you're right. I think we could have definitely easily been 3-1 coming into this game. We're not. We had some close games, but you got to like the way that we fought in New Orleans, right? We went down there, we were down 21-10. We were able to do it. I'm a big believer in Danny Dimes. I got him in a couple fantasy leagues this season. I was called everything under the sun, but smart for making that decision. But now it's paying off. I mean, this guy is one of the leaders, not only in rushing, but also fantasy points scored in the league. So I like that. And then also you saw Ross doing his thing, and then Kadarius Toney, right? This is the first time this past weekend where Kadarius Toney got involved in the game. I actually spoke about this earlier today on my podcast. It was the first episode, by the way. But it's just one of those things. I saw him play at University of Florida last year, not so much for him, but I was looking at Kyle Pitts, right? Because I thought that we were going to have a chance to pick him up. Obviously, he didn't make it past pick 5, so we didn't. Yeah. But Kadarius Toney is one of those players. He's got the ball in his hand, man. I mean, this guy runs like a sub 4.3 40. He does his thing. John Ross is definitely a deep threat down there on the field. And then Galladay, we finally got him involved. He had over 100 receiving yards. So I think the reason why we win is not only Danny Dimes, but also Saquon, the health of our receivers, and also if we wear the white pants. Brett, it was our first game wearing the white pants, and I think if we go with the white pants, throughout this whole season, we'll be good. People may be saying, "Oh, you don't want to wear the same pants," but listen, these guys have more money than you could imagine. Just wash them, or get multiples made. So that's that's my backing of my team. I know Coach is gonna give his take on as to why his Dallas Cowboys are gonna win, but I'm gonna have a rebuttal.
We could go all night, I'm sure. I'll just say this. I think first and foremost, especially as former
I got to
coaches.
let my dog
Yeah, go
in.
ahead.
I'll be right back.
Okay. As former coaches, we know you. First of all, you respect every opponent, and I think that I have Danny Dimes on my Scott Fishbowl team. I'm a guy that you've got to be true to your brand. It felt like with Kenny Galladay being added on, with Kadarius Toney, with Sterling Shepard, and with Evan Ingram, and now with Kyle Rudolph coming in, what they've done on the offensive side of the ball. Although they still got some struggles with the O-line, but you look at what they're trying to do. The Giants are trying to build a roster that can score points, understanding that if you're going to beat Dallas and you're going to compete in the NFC East, you got to be able to score some points. You got to be able to throw the ball, have some verticality in the passing game, have some guys who catch the ball in space and make things happen, and also be able to establish the run. I was a big Barkley guy, coming into the season, even coming off the ACL, so I've got a lot of shares of him. First of all, the Giants, I think, they're 1-3, and you look at that and you go, yeah, they're 1-3, and but the reality is that's a much better football team than 1-3. I think it's a football team that so this is where I'm going to give you all your kudos first. But I have a lot of respect for, I think, what the Giants are trying to build. And I think there's some pieces they got to go. I think they're still a year or two away from really being in a position to really compete every year in that division, even as bad as that division is. But to keep it to the Cowboys, I think the great part about the Cowboys is, what they've done with the defensive side of the ball, 8 draft picks in a row on the defensive side of the ball. They were able to trade back and still get Micah Parsons, which we know is now looking like he could be the defensive rookie of the year, and getting him a lot of accolades for what he's done at DN with D-Law out. But you look at them offensively, and you think Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb and what they had to do in the 4.5 games Dak was there last year. But the reality is, if you want to put 7-8 in the box to stop Zeke, they're going to run play action. They're going to throw the ball on you all game long. And we've seen that. If you want to go too high, which we saw the Chargers do, and then they're going to run the rock on you, and you're going to have to stop the run. And what's been great about what Kellen Moore is, first of all, Kellen Moore and the defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, have made Mike McCarthy look really good. Let's get to that first. And Kellen Moore, to me, is the head coach next year, if at all possible, because otherwise that guy's going to go somewhere else. But I just think what Kellen Moore is doing from an offensive perspective is absolutely outstanding. And with Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons and what you're doing with the defensive side of the ball with 10 turnovers in the first 4 games, Diggs having 5 picks, I just think they're a team that's, for the first time you can say, is extremely well-balanced. No matter what you do defensively, Dak is doing such a great job of checking out of a run into a pass and vice versa based on what the box and what the secondary is telling them, that I just think it's going to be very difficult for New York to be able to match that from an offensive perspective. I don't know that New York's there yet to be able to match Dallas if it gets into a shootout. If they can keep it close and Dallas turns the ball over, hey, absolutely, the Giants have a chance to win that game.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think, to your point, that's one of the few good decisions that Jerry Jones has made within the last couple of years, is ensuring that Kellen Moore does stay on board. And you can see what an offensive or defensive coordinator makes the difference. I mean, last year your defensive coordinator was just, he was just awful. Teams were just able to do anything and everything that they wanted to do. Actually, to be completely honest, I like your chances to win that division. You guys are doing your thing. I, obviously, as a fan, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that my New York Football Giants at the end are, we're looking and we're in first place there, or if not, we're going into week 17, week 18, coming away to go with a tie. So we'll see how it comes, how it goes down there this week. Like I said, I'm gonna definitely be in town. I'm gonna be watching it live. One of the things that I am a corporate of is looking at the big screen, man. Jerry did a great job putting that. I don't even know how big that screen is, but I tend to just look up and watch that as opposed to watching the game on the field. So it's definitely a good time down there and looking forward to it. But I'm looking forward to us leaving that game 2-4, man.
I like how you threw that in there at the end. We're gonna leave there with 2 wins.
We're gonna have to hit you guys back up on that one. Hey, let's talk about more of what you do. You brought up earlier that you had your first episode of a podcast. So tell us what the podcast is. Where can we find it, and what do we discuss, or what are you going to discuss?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started doing a podcast. It's gonna be called Bias Recaps, and pretty much it's on my YouTube channel as well as Dynasty Vipercast on their YouTube channel as well. Just recapping the what we saw or what I saw in the last week's games. Not only the Thursday night game, but then the Sunday night game. So I'm planning to record every Sunday night. Just recapping the game, seeing what happened throughout the day, as well as looking forward to the Monday night football matchup. So as you know, I like to do some sports betting. So gonna give my picks on the game, whether it be the spread, the over under, and then also I'm gonna mix in some player props there. So it's gonna be pretty much like a anywhere from like 10 to 15 minute show. Gonna
Okay.
give you guys a quick sneak peek, and then yeah, gonna put that also on audio version. You know, while you guys are driving, you could hear this voice on your lovely drive in or into work or back home. So I'm gonna be doing that, man. So it's exciting. It's exciting. And you could also catch it on my channel. It's at Biased Opinions on YouTube as well. So we're keeping everything uniform there. And then obviously, like I said, I mean, you know, I know that Coach Bruce hit me up when Arizona became legal out there with the sports
Yeah.
betting and the DFS, man. So that was good news. You know, one of my things on my bucket list is actually getting to some of these places that the sports books are open and just putting a couple wagers in, man. You know, I think every single city and every single state has something to offer. So I just like to go into these different venues, man, just hang out. And even if you're not placing any bets, it's a good it's just a good place just to
Yeah.
relax. Listen, these places, let me tell you something. These places offer great food. Great food. The service is like A1. These guys are on it. I mean, anything that you need. I mean, they make sure that your glass is always full with some drinks. Again, like I said, I watched your show before I came on, so I made sure to bring my glass of little Rojo over here.
There you
So I
go.
wanted
There
to make
you
There
sure
you
go.
go.
that I was prepared. And I am. I see you guys are drinking a little bourbon, a little whiskey, so I'm a little jealous. But you know, nonetheless, I got my little glass of Rojo here, and yeah, just to be able to watch some games with like people that are sports enthusiasts and just talk about the game, talk about the get excited and just having like a different audience around you. So that's why I like to go to sports books. You could actually catch me at a sports book at least once or twice a week, man. Just once or twice a week, just watching the game. So you know, I just love that
Well,
atmosphere. Like I said, it's just good.
one of the things that I brought up to you prior, and when we talk about process, I think even before we even start talking tonight, Coach Bruce and I must have mentioned that word 1,000 times. So if you're investing, I have too many vices. I have an addictive personality. The last thing I need to do is to go out and do anything more than I already do. But with that being said, good old ball blast that you and our team members of. Um, we had a best ball tournament this summer where we had to sign up with Underdog. And Underdog has on there, and they match whatever we played or whatever we put in, they match. So somehow I got $50 in this thing even after the draft. And so now I'm doing these little over and under things. And my question is I'm clueless. I just look at it and I see AJ Green 69 yards higher or lower. And I mean, I don't flip a coin, but I look at it quickly and I don't spend a lot of time in it. So with you, what are we doing? What is your process? What are you looking for? And I could ask you this for you're jack of all trades. So let's just focus on DFS for pro right now, or even college. But what, you wake up in the morning, you got all the newspapers out. What are we doing here?
Well, not newspapers, Brett.
He just said newspapers.
Yeah, he said newspapers.
The younger audience. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, you let me know where you could find those at. Cheers, my friend. But no,
Yeah.
definitely looking at the different apps, and I subscribe to all the sports apps, and I have all the notifications on. So a lot of people are like, man, like people are just hitting your phone up, and I'm like, no, those are notifications for sports. So definitely, not that at all. But what I usually do at the beginning of the week, what I like to do is I write down every single game. I go down by the spread, and then I go down by the over under. So when you're looking at DFS and you're also looking at player props or even betting on the game, you want to take a look at the over under at the set total. So let's just say like this weekend, right? We got the Sunday night game, which is actually one of the highest. It's at 56.5, right? You got Buffalo at Kansas City. So that's going to be a game where if you're looking to build a lineup, with DFS, you're going to want to stack some players on from either one of those teams or both of those teams, for the simple fact that that's projected to be a high scoring game, right? So that means that there's going to be a lot of scoring, a lot of opportunities for both teams to get their skilled players involved. And obviously, you're familiar with what Josh Allen is able to do, and Patrick Mahomes is able to do as well, right? So you're going to want to do that. You're going to want to probably stay away from the game New England at Houston. That's probably one of the lowest at 39.5, right? So that's telling you right there that they don't think that a lot of points are going to be scored in that game. So what I may actually do is take a look at New England defense, right? Because what they're saying is that, okay, it's going to be low scoring game. And obviously, as each team scores, that penalizes or that takes away points from the defense.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying?
There you go. Okay. Yeah.
And then what I like to do, I mean, now we're rolling into week 5, so you got a good sample size. You're able to see, okay, hey, this team is legit. This team is not. Okay, this team got kind of lucky the last couple of weeks. So for instance, Arizona, I'm all in on Arizona this weekend against San Fran. You need to talk me away from not picking Arizona this weekend in regards to going up against San Fran. We know that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be out. Trey Lance has done his thing, but he's done his thing in fantasy. He's not done his thing in real life football. I don't think that he's going to be able to get that W for his team, especially against an Arizona's team that's pretty much unstoppable right now. And if you're looking at another game, I like Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's -10. We saw what they're playing in Tampa. They're playing Miami, so they're going to be in their element. You saw that they didn't play as good as they wanted to, especially having that homecoming for Tom Brady on Sunday night against the Patriots. So I'm looking at that game, and it's just it's pretty much like a week-to-week thing. That's why I love DFS as well. I do my thing on fantasy for the season long, and that's just pretty much like, just having a good time with buddies or just having that competitive spirit. But with DFS, it's just one of those things, like, even if you have a bad or a good week, it doesn't matter, man. This is a new week in week 5, and we just got to go ahead and get right. So, in real life, I'm in automotive, so it's the same thing, right? It's a 30-day deal. So no matter how I did in last month, it's in October's a new month, so we're starting from scratch.
I think what's
sell
neat
cars?
about DFS too is
no.
Well, you said you're in automotive.
Oh yeah, I'm on the corporate side, so I'm a regional account manager, overseeing deals.
Well, because your personality, man, I think you would sell the hell out of a car.
Thank you. Yeah, those hours are too long. I can't work those.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, no, yeah.
No.
I don't know how you would do. I don't know how you do it all day, anyways, with all that you're doing.
Yeah, just got to stay, focused. I got to give a shout out to one of the guys that I follow, and he's part of the C2C family, Kevin. He actually put out there, he was like, hey, anybody creating content or writing or even getting into writing, look into Grammarly, and that has helped me immensely. So shout out to Kevin, man. He knows who he is out there.
All the editors, we know who he is too. Kevin's a great guy, but all the editors appreciate that when you guys do that, by the way.
Yeah, Kevin's a great guy, man. I just pulled up his ad because I definitely want to give him all his kudos, man. Is at the boys _22. So he's been on our show.
We love Kevin.
Yeah, that's definitely the best. That's definitely the best $30 that I spend on a monthly basis, man. Because I just
I was going to say, looking at your article in the Football Absurdity, you're the one about Buffalo and the over and under the 11 wins. I could tell they used it. It was well done. That's my only job with Ball Blast is I just read content all day long and just kind of try and clean it up. And it looked good. And you got to feel comfortable with your bet there with them being 3-1. Probably didn't suspect that they would or expect that they would lose to Pittsburgh off the top, but 11 wins certainly looks like that's something that's going to happen, or more, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that with the extra game that the NFL put in this year, it's pretty much like a mulligan. I don't think anybody should be losing to Pittsburgh at this point, especially what we've seen.
Right.
It's unfortunate because it's one of those things. Again, I'm speaking from the heart here because I'm a New York Football Giants fan, and those guys came out together. But if you look at Eli, his last couple of years, and you're looking at what Big Ben is doing, I just think it's time, man. I think it's time to go ahead and pass that over to whoever's next in line. And we don't know who that is in Pittsburgh, right? It could be
we don't.
We don't know. But at the end of the day, I just think that he's doing more harm to himself than helping himself and getting into the Hall of Fame in Canton.
There's always you got to like how sometimes, or not sometimes, what Bill Belichick is always known for is getting rid of before you have to, or before it becomes necessary. And sometimes you got to know when it's time to reload or start over. And I think Pittsburgh is that spot. And if you're going to invest in a Dwayne Haskins, you might want to see him on a little bit later at some point and see if he's worth keeping around.
Yeah, and if you look at I don't know if you saw, but there was like a clip of Juju on the sideline, pretty much saying, and you could read his lips. He was like, "It's a Ben problem, right?" So I think once you have some of the players in your locker room turn against you and pretty much placing the blame on you, that becomes an issue, right? And then also, like you said, going to Bill Belichick, you saw what happened today, man. That they pretty much gave up Gilmore. I mean, just gave him up because for a 6th-round pick, that's nothing. Right. I mean, we don't really hear of a lot of guys. I know that Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round, but that doesn't happen every single day. Right. So it's just one of those things. They pretty much just gave him up for peanuts or give him up for nothing. So Carolina definitely came up on the better side of that trade. And I just think that, like you said, to your point, Bill Belichick knows when it's time to give up on some players or, to trade away. Sometimes he does that a year too early, but I think in this case, he probably made the right move.
I think more often than not, if you look at, and I've read all the Patriot Way, the Patriot Reign, I like to follow successful sports programs. So I like to read a lot of those books and see what makes those organizations successful. But there's not a better guy I can think of. And since I've been a football fan, I'm 47 years young, but what the Patriots can do and Bill Belichick's ability to say, yeah, are there a couple guys he got rid of too soon, maybe a year too soon? Sure. But if you look at the track record and what he has done, knowing when to get rid of guys and when to bring other guys in that might have either been a practice squad guy on another team or a late round draft pick and maybe he wasn't quite getting that opportunity, he brings him into New England and all of a sudden that guy's a freaking Pro Bowler. I mean, what he can do with a roster and understanding, with them, it's about the system. They have a system offensively and a system defensively, and they're so great at finding players that can plug in to that system and make that system work. And so it was time for Tom Brady to go. And I think we can all say that, hey, look, you can't blame Belichick for that one. I think there's a lot more to that story in terms of the organization and what was going on and where they were at in terms of player personnel. But what Tom has been able to do in Tampa Bay, I think is pretty self-explanatory. But I think the great thing about DFS and what you do there, and just truth be told, I was the first guy because it's finally legal in Arizona. I always say when sports betting finally becomes legal in Arizona, I'm going to be all in. And so I was. And so I had Chris Rock at Detroit Beastie on the show. I've now had you on the show. You guys are the only two guys I reach out to every week and like, hey, what are you doing? And you're so kind. And so is he about telling me, kind of what you're seeing and what games you like. When you brought up like Kansas City, Buffalo. And I've learned one of the great things about DFS is you can plug a lineup in with guys from the games you expect to score more points. But it's not how you win the big pot. You win the big pot by who else you put in that lineup. And you take guys from games that might be lower scoring, but we're going to see the volume and score points. And it's the ability to put together a full lineup. And so kind of walk me through. And hey, humble brag here. I won't say how much, but I haven't had to spend any more money than what I spent in week one. I'm still playing off that same dollar amount, which is good. It's a step in the right direction.
Bankroll is everything. Bankroll.
Have one big,
That's it, man. It's everything. Listen, shout out to Chris Robin, man. Like you said, at Detroit Beastie. That's my guy. He couldn't be any nicer at the expo, man. He actually
he's the best.
Yeah, man. If you want to talk about process, that dude right there, man. I approached him Saturday night. We had there was an outing out there, and it was pretty cool, man. Outside, and I just approached him at the bar, getting a drink. And, we're just talking about the process, how he goes down pretty much just old school, writing down stuff on a spiral notebook and going from there. And so one of the first things that I did when I came back home was bought myself a one subject spiral notebook, and I do the same thing, man. So he's definitely helped me immensely. I always tune into his shows. Always tune into his shows, man, and look at his picks. He's definitely a great guy. I suggest that everybody follow him, but he's definitely a great guy. He knows his stuff. So, and like you said, Brett, it's all about bankroll, man. It's all about bankroll. Trust me, through all my years of doing this, man. I saw you play.
It's so funny.
I saw you play poker. I saw that tweet. I'm a poker player as well, and that's all. Like,
well, here's the deal.
1-3 or 2-5.
You gotta love poker.
poker for me was my vice, and I've got a lot of kids there. Will, I've got 11 of them, and I did it mostly as a single father for a whole bunch of years, and I did it with co-parenting, and when I did, it gave me a lot of freedom to have nights to myself, and so meaning 1 week it was always 1 week on, 1 week off. So I played a lot of poker, and yes, bankroll was everything in that because it allows you to work your way up. So that's obviously, I can't imagine being any different than what you have to do with that, because the last thing I want to do is go back into underdog and put more money in. Nobody wants to do that. They want to keep building. And then if you pull out, it's like, yeah, I want enough to take away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to your point, it's just one of those things where, bankroll management is really, really important. And the last thing you want to do is keep on depositing, right? So the goal I tell people every year when the season starts is just to make one deposit and then make more withdrawals than I want, throughout the season. So we try to keep it to like one or two deposits minimum, man, throughout the season, and then go from there.
Yeah. Well, we could probably do this all night, but I got to be honest. I was I don't have a football team. In 1993 or whatever the year was, they all moved away. We had, maybe you got Hope. I love Daniel Jones. But aside from that, my heart and my passions with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and nobody has told me yet tonight what they're doing, but if they've won 106 games. If they lose tonight, they're out. I got to go watch that. Man, you killed it. I hope that, I get to read your stuff. In fact, I will make sure I sign up for your stuff because the reason why I wanted to be in the industry was to learn and to be an editor at a site with great content and great writers and analysts. I'm blessed. So I can't wait to read your stuff, man.
Man, I appreciate it. Yeah, just got a message earlier with Kate going to be doing some more stuff consistently with a Ball Blast, man. So again, everyone that you guys see and read their stuff on Twitter, they couldn't be any more nicer than what when you could think of coming across them in person at the expo, man. Those people are just 100 times nicer in person, and I'm just glad to be part of be part of the team with all these different people, man, and all these different websites, and everybody that I've come across so far has been nothing but great to me. So definitely appreciate the opportunity, man, and looking to putting out some more content, not only in the written format but also video format. So definitely watch out for that.
Well, hey, just so you know, I've got Brett. Brett's going to be going up there with me next year, so we'll definitely see you. And now we've established a lot of relationships.
Let's do it, man. It's going to be good,
sure.
Well, heck,
I may have to expend that time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we bring analysts all the time on, so we'll get you on here again before then.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, thank you so much, Bruce.
Good
to see you again, man. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Take care, guys.
You too.